Here we go. The start of day 3 on the Erie Canal. Uh, it's not a whole lot to say about it except that the whole way during the Erie Canal, it was nice and calm, just like it is right now. Even with the wind blowing and pretty strong winds, that sometimes you could see those trees, moving back and forth. But because of the trees like that, and it was a narrow channel, you really never had a chance, you know, for the wind to kick up the waves and all of that. So uh, it was pretty nice traveling the whole way through the Erie Canal, nice and smooth. Now here's one of the few locks. I think there was only two of them, maybe three. I don't remember exactly, but that has what they call the guillotine door. Instead of door swinging open one way or the other, what they would do is this doors would come down after you go in. It would come down and shut off the water from coming or going one way or the other. Uh, One of the uh, things about these guillotine doors is they also use them to control floodwaters. Uh, and you'll see some, or I think I've already posted a couple of them already that I went through, and uh, I'll show you another one here that at one time used to be a lock. You can tell by looking at it as you're coming up to it that it used to be a lock. And this is also one of the, I'm not sure again, but I think it was the only one on the Erie Canal that actually took you down uh, instead of bringing you up. All the other locks would bring you up in elevation. This one actually brought you down on the elevation. And I don't remember having another lock that actually took me down. This was, I think, the only one. And again, I'm not going to show you the whole thing about the, taking me down and everything. Uh, Pretty simple. Go back up to the line, hold on to the line, the water starts dropping, and then the gate opens up front, and then you take off. Now, if you notice, this one has a guillotine doors in the back as I came in through it, but on the front part, where we're leaving, they have the swing doors that open. So I guess for some reason or another, they decided, they wanted a guillotine uh, door in the back, and I guess that door would also, that kind of guillotine door would also help control the water flow. So maybe that's why they did it that way. And later on the same film here, you're going to see one of these guillotine doors, and as you're going through it, you can kind of tell by looking at the sides and everything is that at one time used to be a lock, and it's no longer a lock. Now they just use it just to control water flow. But originally in the Erie Canal, there were a total of about 56, 58 locks altogether. Now there's only 35 locks, so they've taken out quite a few locks. And instead of completely destroying them, they, on some of the locks, they put guillotine doors there to help control water flow. You can see here, this one's starting to take me down, and it was the only one that did that. All the rest of them would take you up in elevation. In total elevation, it's over 500 feet from start at sea level till the very last lock. It takes you up a total of 500 feet, a little over 500 feet actually. So you go up a long ways, and that's why they needed, I guess, all these locks so that you can take you up on elevation that high, because that is pretty high. When you think about it, you're going to go up 500 feet, and you do it, within 35 locks that you go through. It's pretty interesting because you can kind of see the elevation changing and all of that, and you can also see how in the old days they had to do this in order to be able to control the water flow. so that they can move the barges up and down the canal. Uh, Now, originally, when this canal was built, they used to use horses and mules to pull the barges. And the way they did that is there used to be a path along the canal that the horses and the mules would travel on. And of course, they had a team, a guy controlling them, the team. They would harness them all up and have them ready to go. And these guys uh, would have to walk behind the horses as they were taking them out. So it could be a long day for them, I guess. But further down, you're also going to see some of the parts of the wall of the Erie Canal. Most of the paths have been replaced with bike trails. Now you can take a bike all the way from one end of the Erie Canal to the other end of the Erie Canal, and they got parks and stuff like that where you can stay overnight. And they have, some of them do have bathrooms and toilets, and some of them also have little stores and stuff like that, so you can buy stuff as you need it while you're doing your bike run. Uh, it's a 300 and some odd mile stretch of the Erie Canal. That's how long the Erie Canal stretches. So for those guys that like to do, or for people who like to bike, it would be a nice little scenic route to do one day. You can start on either end and work your way, because there is, like I said, a bike trail that goes all the way along the Erie Canal, and it takes you through all these little towns and everything else that I'm going through now. And some of these little towns are very nice. They're small. Everybody knows everybody there, and they're kind of like out of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, but they're very friendly people. I found that out real quick, that if you needed help with anything, all you had to do was ask, and they were willing to help you. They want to see you coming by. They want to see you stop at their little town. They want you to spend some of your money there with them at that little town. So uh, it's pretty nice, and I kind of like the idea of these old little towns that have a lot of history on them. So one of them, Little Falls, I think, which I think I already showed you that on the last episode. Little Falls was known for false diamonds. There are some kind of quartz that has been formed inside the rocks themselves, and they look like diamonds. They said they're not real diamonds. That's why they call them false diamonds. But they said they can be cut. You can cut them to look like a diamond, and then they do sell them. You can buy them a lot cheaper than you could buy a diamond, but it is a false diamond. It's not a real diamond. And while I was at Little Falls, they happened to show me a rock that had some of these pieces of quarry, crystal clear diamonds in them. And you can, it looks just like a regular rock, except it's clear, and then you can cut it and polish it up to make it look like a diamond. And they had a little shop there at Little Falls where you could buy these false diamonds, and they had like earrings made out of them, and rings, and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty neat to read about that. And they said they call them false diamonds, and they're only mined in a certain area, so it's not like you can find them all over the place. Here's a little town that I went ahead and stopped off at, and you can see across the canal there was like a little stage or something like that. This is the state park right here across the water there. And what they were doing is they were getting ready to set up for a concert. They were having the Allman Brothers Trilogy band playing. They said they sound just like the Allman Brothers, and they were doing, I guess, a tribute to them. So they were going to play tomorrow, but I didn't stay for that. What I did, I started to record, was I started watching people coming down to this little park here, was kind of wondering, well, what's going on? I know they're not supposed to play till tomorrow, but anyway. Uh, oh, and while I was videotaping this, I saw a guy with this fish he had on his line, and he's trying to tire him out. He can't pick him up. It's a pretty good sized fish, so he can't pick him up. So he's trying to tire him out so he can put him in the net and then bring him up. So he's just kind of letting him wear himself down, kind of keep working on it. He keeps working on it. The fish is starting to get tired, you can see, because he's had this fish on there for a while on the line. I didn't record the whole thing, I just recorded part of it. But he's had the fish for a while. And you can see the fish is getting tired. You know, he's still struggling, he's still fighting, but he is starting to get tired. And then sooner or later, the guy picks up his net and he starts to kind of swing it downward and going to try and pick up the fish now. And as he's getting in, he almost had him in the net the first time. Right there, he should have had him in the net. But then the fish pops out. So he tries it again. And then all of a sudden, here it goes. The second jump that the fish did, off the hook. So he missed the guy was kind of in shock that he kind of lost the fish. And I feel sorry for the guy. But anyway, that was a pretty good story. But here I am where we tied up at, and it turns out that the what was going to go on over here at that little stage, and you can see the little stage from there. What was happening is that every summer they have the high school band play here at the park for about 2 hours, and that's what was going on. That's why all these people were starting to line up here. Because they were here to listen to the band play. It sounded, like there was going to be quite a bit of people, and they did. I mean, a lot of people started rolling in. They even brought in a catering truck. There was a truck selling ice cream, and snow cones, and hot dogs, hamburgers, and all kinds of stuff. So they made it like a little concert deal. And then tomorrow was the actual concert of the Allman Brothers trilogy. So it kind of looks like they were pretty good at their songs. I'm going to try and see if maybe I can play back some of the songs that they were singing. Well, I couldn't play back any of the music without adding all the sound to all the different tapes, so I decided not to record it, the music, but they did sound very nice, and it was a nice band, and it's good to see that they do that every year for their seniors, members of the band that will no longer be playing here. Now, as I was going down the river, I happened to notice this boat in front of me. It was a pretty interesting little boat. I would call it a canal boat, okay, because I've seen these type of boats overseas, in the small rivers and canals in England, for example, where there's very small spaces, and these canal boats are very low profile, so they can fit under their bridges and everything. And I noticed not only one but several of them, and they all look identical. The only difference is that they had different names on them. And it turns out that these boats you can rent for a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever you want to make the trip. And they use them to make the Erie Canal trip. You can go from one end of the Erie Canal to the other end of the Erie Canal. And you just tie up anywhere you want and then stay overnight and stuff like that. That was pretty interesting. Here we're going through part of the canal that actually you can see the walls along the canals, and and like I said, there used to be a path along the side that they would tie the barges to horses and mules, and then the horses and mules would actually pull the barge forward. The barge would have wheat and grain and whatever else they would transport back and forth. And then on the barge themselves, you would have guys with these long poles that would push the barge away from the wall as the horses or the mules were pushing it forward. And I'm not sure whether this was true or not, but one guy told me that uh, they would run a team of horses every 2 hours. So once the horse or the mules had run for not run but walk for 2 hours, then they would hook up another team of horses, and then they would continue the trip. And they did it all the way down along the Erie Canal. And it turns out that because this is like farmland out here, they would actually pay the farmers to have the team of horses or the team of mules hook up the barge and take it down, for the 2 hours. And then another farmer would unhook those horses or mules, and then hook up his team, and he would start walking them for a couple of hours. So that's how they used to get the barges up and down the canal here. And it was pretty interesting to see that. I kind of saw a little film of the horses pulling these huge barges. These barges were kind of, huge. They were wide enough that they could carry a lot of grain, and a lot of saw some that have barrels in them. I don't know exactly what was in the barrels, but and they would, I guess, would be the cheapest way to do it, because you would pull them, with the mules and the horses, and you could go the 300 and some odd miles that the Erie Canal is. So it kind of takes you back, and you think, hey, whichever way you had to do it, you just had to get the grain and the feed and everything else, and coal or whatever else you needed, wood, from one place to another place, and that's the way they did it. Nowadays, some of the parts of the walls are gone, or they've rebuilt the walls. The canal was widened 2 times after the initial canal was built. Shortly after they had finished the canal, they started looking at it and figuring a way to widen it up some. So it got 2 more makeovers until they quit using the canal. Now it's no longer, they still use the canal per se, but it's mostly recreational boats now that are going up and down these things. They don't really, I saw, I think, maybe one barge go by the whole time I was on the canal. So I guess commercially they don't use it anymore, but it's still, and one of the reasons why I think a lot of these small towns allow you to tie up for free is because they want you to stop there. They know that you will stop and you'll eat or spend your money there. And of course I do. When I stop there, that's when I have my chance to go get groceries, or if I needed to do my laundry, I would do my laundry. And then you always had, little things here and there. Every small little town you went into has an ice cream shop, very close to the canal, within walking distance. It got to the point where all I would do is, as soon as I tie up, I start looking for that little ice cream shop to see where I could get me a scoop of ice cream. Here's another one of those little canal boats that I was telling you about. And you can, like I said, you rent them and you can stay on board. And there's, I think, I spoke to one guy that he told me about them. He says, yeah, you can rent them out. And there's like 3 different sizes you can get. You can get he said you can get a small one, which is like 32 feet. And then they had a 36 footer, and the other one was like 38 feet. And, you could probably carry, 6, 7 people with you. 8 people, in one of those things. Just find a place for them to sleep. Here's where we're coming into. There's a guillotine door here, but there's not a canal. There's not a lock here. But as you can see to the right there, you can see the stairway that most of the locks had. as you approach the locks, and you can see the walls here, and you can kind of get an idea that this used to be a lock. It's not anymore. All it is now is just that guillotine door up there. And again, all that does is just control the water flow. If you needed to rise part of the canal up a little bit higher than the other, then that's how you do it. You control the water flow with these guillotine doors. And you can see all along the sides there where you could tie up your boats and stuff if the lock wasn't open. So they've kind of taken it apart, and they took quite a these apart. Some of them are completely gone. Some of them they converted them into these where they left the gate there, and they used that to control the water. A lot of times they used to say that what you had to do is, depending on whether you got a lot of rain or not enough rain, you would have to shut down some of these to keep the water flow at a certain height so that the barges could continue running up and down, whether the water content was low or not. And all they had to do is just bring down these guillotine doors, and that would help control some of the water as they're to raise it or lower the canal water. In some areas, they said it was only like 6 feet deep in the canal. I only ran into that maybe once that I can remember, where I thought, hey, it's getting pretty shallow. But from what I understand, these barges were flat bottom barges, so they didn't need a whole lot of draft. They could easily, float within a couple feet, I guess, even load it up. But it finally got to the point, where you could see some of the walls here. Now, most of them are gone, like I said, but you can still see part of the remnants of the original walls of the Erie Canal. And some of the walls are not even the original ones, because they expanded the canal twice after they built it initially. So I'm sure by the time they expanded them, it was new materials and different types of way of building the canal or expanding the canal. So, but there is some areas that does have still the original walls of the canal, and you'll see them like here, for example. You can see this wall to the right. That was part of the original wall, and there was a note on there that said that. But anyway, we're getting toward the end, and finally decided to go ahead and tie up for the night. So I found this little place here where I tied up and stayed there overnight. And this is basically day 3 now of the canal. And again, I'm going to highlight this little town here as soon as I get a chance. On the next video, it'll show, some of the buildings and some of the areas. You can see where Why Not is tied up at the docks there. So this is the end of this film here, and we're getting close to the end. And we will go ahead and continue on the Erie Canal trip. This is day 3 now, so that's it. No more. That's the end. Thank you.